Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK, and our show today is the Corner Bookstore. And we are welcoming one of our own team members here and a friend. Her name is Tracy Cram Perkins, and this is her book, Dementia Home Care, How to Prepare Before, During, and After. And it is a book that you should definitely purchase if you or know of someone have dementia, something is running in your family, you have some concerns. This book is the Bible. It is a toolbox right in this is a toolbox right here. See it? We're going to talk to Tracy more about it. Let's welcome the star of our show, and then we'll bring out Tracy. FLOYD BOEHM is an international award-winning author. She's also the global connector. She knows everyone and anyone, it seems, around the world. Welcome, Diane.
Hi, Dr. Jacalyn. You're always so kind. I'm super charged, excited about today's show because Tracy is phenomenal, and everybody get out your pen and papers, take notes, and buy the book.
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting because Tracy was introduced to me and to our platform by another person who was a team member. And then I interviewed Tracy, and now Tracy has her own show here, which is called Dementia Home Care. Let me see if I can find the graphic whenever I want something. Where is it? Here it is. So this is the show that Tracy, she and I were doing it together. She's so good. She's doing it by herself now. So how about that? And you can find her show on the third Tuesday of each month. So Diane, let's welcome Tracy and find out what's been happening since we saw her last. Welcome to the program, Tracy.
Hi, thank you ladies for having me. It was so good to see you again.
Thanks. We're happy to have you.
We're thrilled to have you, and you've changed so many lives. I know when you first came out with the book after we had connected here, you had mentioned that there was a number of books that were sold. And how are you doing now with book sales?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So the book has now sold over 9,000 copies.
Woo!
Congratulations.
It is so overwhelming. And I recently had the most amazing experience with a reader of my book. I was doing a demonstration at Ace Hardware. And first of all, I want to say this, authors are insecure people, so please give them lots of praise. Okay, that's my only message. Sorry. But anyway, what happened is I was at Ace Hardware and I was giving a demonstration, and a mother and daughter had come up to talk to me because they had a family member with dementia. And then as I demonstrated how to use the book, and we were just about to start talking about what they could do in their homes, when a woman came into the store and took the book out of my hand, she goes, "I don't know who you are, but I have to tell them about this book." And then she proceeded to give them the demonstration of how to use the book. I was so blown away. I have never had anyone do that in my life. And if she is out here watching, I want to say thank you, because you are the person I wrote the book for. You are the reason I wrote the book, was because you are the one that needed the help. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing. As you know, I have a copy of the book. I just showed it. My sister has a copy of the book, and I've referred to it many times. You have this expertise that not many people have. In addition to your patience and your kindness and your empathy and your compassion, you are a 4-time survivor of caregiving of some loved ones that have had dementia. Tell us about how you got started writing the book, taking your experiences and putting them in there.
Well, it started because when I was caring for my dad, I didn't know what I was doing. And I was obviously failing 75% of the time. And what you see in the book is the other 25% that actually worked. But before I lost him to the fog of dementia, he and I were talking about all the things that I had been learning. And he recommended, or actually maybe promised, that I would not just let that go, that I would share it with people. And so that was what started me on the journey to write the book. And he was the second family member that I cared for. And while I was caring for him, I was also caring for my uncle. So I was doing in-home care in my own house and then commuting to my uncle's place. So those two we were doing at the same time. And it's so much different taking care of men than it is taking care of women. My mom and my aunt bookended them. My mom was first. My aunt was the final family member I cared for. Everyone was so completely different. But I took what I learned from the previous one and I tried to apply it to the next person, and then had to customize it because everybody was different. And if I didn't have the support that I had at the time that I was doing this, it would have never occurred to me to like mix and match. And I'm going to date myself here. I chose to use kind of the Richard Simmons deal a meal method. And I would take this recipe over here and this recipe over here and smash the two together and come up with something different. So I had to find a way to make it work for that person, because what worked for my mom definitely didn't work for my dad. And what worked for my dad only partially would work for my uncle. So it was going through that. And then my aunt was, and of course, everyone had also additional health issues. We had a lot of cancer. We had diabetes. We had, gosh, I can't even think of all the things that happened at the time, but kidney failure and things like that. So we had a lot of things that were going on where we had to take care of more than just the dementia. The dementia was like the icing on the cake, though. I mean, it was the one that you lose your loved one thread at a time, and you just get systematically erased from their life. And I had to figure out how to reinvent myself so I could deal with that loss, because it is so hard when your parent, who you've had for your entire life, doesn't remember you anymore. I mean, it's just like your world has imploded, and trying to get past that and treat them like a person. Because that was the other thing. You have emotional issues that you have with your parent that you wouldn't have, say, with somebody else that you were taking care of, like an aunt or an uncle. And you have to get past that too. And I was very lucky with my mom because of her dementia, and we had to figure out things to talk about, and I was the closest to her. What we ended up doing is I would tell her about the things that we didn't get along well with. I would phrase it in a way that it was, more like a story, and ask her what she thought. And most times she didn't remember it. And by the end of the story, we would be laughing and she wouldn't remember any of the angsty stuff. And it would end in a positive thing. And it was very healing for me, because I was able to give myself permission to respectfully talk about it with her, not say, you did this to me, because it wasn't that. It was like, why do you think this happened at the time we were going through this? And what do you think, what do you think we should have done? It was just like working through and trying to find the other end of the solution. And so for me, by the time she passed, and unfortunately my sisters didn't do this, so I felt actually really good by the time she died. I mean, I missed her. I'm not going to say I didn't miss her, but it was so healing for me that it made it easier for me to go in to take care of my dad. Different experience with my dad. He and I have the same personality. And fortunately for me, my husband is a brilliant man and was able to get us laughing and work us through all of our problems, and then teach me how to laugh too, which is why in the book I have a chapter on laughter, because it's really, really important to save your sanity.
Amen to that.
Thank you for sharing all that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Tracy, what do you think is the most difficult part of being a caregiver? Is it watching the ultimate demise? Is it the physical and mental stress? Is it the isolation? I could go on and on. So what would you say it is?
I would say it's a combination of all of them. It's not just one thing, because if it was just one thing, we could deal with it. It's like if you had an issue with your car, but but like the door only opens from the outside, so you have to roll down the window and unlock it. You can deal with that. That's just one thing. But when you have a cascade of things coming down at you, and you're not getting, and you are isolated, and you aren't getting the emotional support, and you don't have time to take a break for yourself, all of those things build, and it's almost like a tsunami is coming at you, and you just get bowled over. And if you don't get any respite, that's when you find yourself curled up in a puddle in the corner of your bedroom crying after everyone's gone to sleep. I mean, it's just, you have to have that emotional space. So if you don't have it, you're not going to survive longer than your person you're caring for. I mean, you really do need some sort of support and some way of getting a little bit of me time.
I agree 100% that me time is so important. It's important even if you're just being a mom or a dad, you have to have some me time. But the stress, what you're saying of watching you, the caregiver, disappear little by little is so heart-wrenching on top of everything else that the me time is even more important.
The sad thing I found about myself, and I started correcting this later, was I wasn't giving myself any time to be creative. I was so stressed out about taking care of them, and I got so fixated on that. I didn't take like 5 minutes to scribble a picture or play with crayons or do a Lego, something that, it only takes, it was a 5-minute respite for me just for a creative outlet. I didn't do that at first. And it wasn't until much later that I figured out that was important, and because there wasn't always somebody there that could help me. And so on those times when I was completely by myself and my husband was traveling and it was just my dad and me, I had to figure out, okay, how can we get along together? How can we do this successfully? We started playing cards at lunch. My husband wouldn't be there. He didn't play cards with us, but it was just my dad and me at lunchtime. And it would literally tell me what kind of a day I was going to have in the evening. If he was going to have a really good sundowners experience or a really horrible sundowners experience. And it was literally just playing a game of solitaire between the two of us. It was very revealing for me, and it also helped me prepare for whatever emotional onset was coming. And so I was able to make sure I gave myself enough time out, or put a timer on my phone to remind me to do breathing exercises, because that helped me lower my blood pressure. And so then I wasn't quite so upset when he would get to throwing silverware at me because I said something that upset him. So, I mean, it was just anything I could do to have that smile on my face, make him feel safe and happy, because really the only reason he was acting out was because I was causing him to act out, at least in my situation. And anything I could do to make him feel safe, because he was lost at sea and literally shadowed me everywhere. I could not do anything except for go to the bathroom by myself. So, I mean, it was a learning experience. Let's just put it that way.
I love that, a learning experience. Tracy, in this book that I'm referring to as the Bible, the toolbox that is, everybody needs a copy of this, I feel like. You have these boxes. We've talked about it before, but you've got these boxes that really highlight information for people. Can you share more about that?
Oh, absolutely. When I was doing caregiving, I have read over 30 books. I had gone to classes, and I would have experiences like my dad would be melting down, and I would remember I had read it somewhere, but I couldn't remember where. And when you're stressed out and you're trying to find something, you kind of like flip through the pages real fast to see if I think I had it in this book, but it wasn't in that book. I think I had it in this book. So I decided that for all the page fanners out there that are like me, that I would put these text boxes in there so that as you're flipping through, you can see, oh, this is the section that has it. You can get to that page and find what you're looking for. And it gives you quick little bites of information. Sometimes in those text boxes, I nested some text boxes to remind you about some things like perhaps knowing where the public restrooms are when you are out with your loved one. Just little tips to throw in there just to keep in mind, because your brain doesn't work as well when you're tired and stressed. And so having a tool there to help you find that information quickly, and then to just give you simple step-by-step instructions on how to get from point A to point B is a godsend. And I just wanted to make sure that people had the book that I wish I would have had.
That is so wonderful. So wonderful.
Thank you, Diane.
But also, loved how you spoke, not just today, but in a past interview, how you help people feel more comfortable and they try to find themselves too. So, for example, I know with my grandma, I would always make sure I would bring one of her old purses with her to have, and then I would have like a checkbook, and then I'd have a book, different things that I knew that she always carried in her purse. And even though she couldn't read or write, she'd get this smile on her face, and she couldn't wait to open it up. And you could see her thinking all of a sudden, and then she would be writing a check for a bill and hand it to me, and try to say something, and I go, oh yes, I'll make sure I mail it, and things like that. And I just remember you talking about that. So if you want to share more tips, that would be great. I don't know if I did good, but I felt like I did good. So.
Oh, you did fantastic. Oh my gosh. I am so impressed by what you did for engaging your grandmother, literally. A lot of us, we want to be appreciated and we want to be able to connect. I mean, as human beings, we're just social. We need to be social. But if our loved one's brain is shrinking and developing holes and they can't do what they did before, it's finding something else that you can connect with them. Now, a lot of times I talk about using, like, say, a memory book that tells their story. And in it, you have photos of them from the age of 5 to, say, let's say they're 85. And you will tell their story, and you don't have more than 3 people in a picture. And the sentences cannot be longer than 8 to 10 words because they'll forget the beginning of the sentence before they get to the end. But what this does is it tells their story. It shows them places they went to work, things where maybe they volunteered, or significant anniversaries or memories. And you're telling their story, you're engaging them in their story. And so you can walk them through and actually get a meaningful experience with them. Putting things in their hand, like Diane, what you did with your grandmother is phenomenal. If you can give them something that's tactile, that they can feel and play with and manipulate, that's meaningful to them. Like what I did with my dad is I had little bins of things that were like washers and screws and nuts, because he did a lot of things that were manual when he was working in his job. And so he would, sort them and play with them and help me move stuff around. And so we were able to connect doing that, because then also sometimes it would trigger a story. Sometimes while he was still able to speak, he would tell me a story that, whether it had any relationship to that item or not, he was telling me a story. So I was getting some connection with him and a memory that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So what you did is really phenomenal. Anything you can do to get them to connect with you, because that's part of what we're missing. We're losing them, and to be able to maintain some level of connection is hugely important.
Tracy, I appreciate everything that you were saying. And Diane, thanks for sharing that story. I'm wondering, as a full-time caregiver, sometimes you see things every day. Every day. Did I say every day? Yes, every day. Whereas if someone else was coming in and they haven't seen it every day, it might not get on their nerves as much as the person who's seeing it. So if you are the one, the feet on the street, so to speak, the one who's there day after day, what can you do so that you don't get frustrated about little things that are happening over and over again?
Okay, part of that is reframing. You have to recognize it's okay. Think about if you've ever been around 3-year-olds and they like to listen to their favorite story or their favorite music over and over and over again. And it's the same principle. They are doing something over and over and over again. Now, there are times you can redirect them. So depending on what the behavior is, you can redirect them or give them something to play with, kind of like what Diane was doing with the purse. I talked on an episode of the Dementia Home Care Show with the Lego lady, and you can give them something creative that they can, like, build the Legos. You can ask them to, what's their dream home? Build your dream home. Or what's your dream vacation, and have them build something so that you can redirect them in what they're doing. They need an activity. Usually when they get into the loop, it's because they are feeling lost at sea and they have no hope of finding shore, and we are their anchor. So what they really need is something to keep them occupied. And so I know it makes you go crazy, because you're going to hear the same thing. You might hear that every 5 minutes, or you might hear it, only once an hour, depending on how they're doing. But getting them some level of engagement to give you respite is very, very helpful. So if there's something, an activity or a project, even giving them something like a fidget quilt. And if you're not familiar with that, it's a blanket that has things on it that they can touch, like zippers and shoelaces, different types of fabric, buttons they can button and unbutton, some Velcro, just something that they can keep them busy. Another thing you can do, which is going to sound really odd, especially if they get agitated, is wrap them in like one of the heavy blankets, like the magnet blankets. That weight makes them feel safe. It's kind of like going back into the womb. And if you wrap them in a weighted blanket, they tend to feel safer than if you just wrap them in a regular blanket. So just little things that you can do to make them feel safe, to empower them is the other part of it. So if they're asking you a specific question over and over and over again, or repeating a behavior over and over again, figure out what the answer to that is, and then either write it on, like, say, a whiteboard where you can point them to it to get their own answer, and they'll figure it out after a few times, and they'll just start looking there to get their own answer, because that's a safety net for them. They suddenly can answer their own question. So if you can just figure out what is causing the behavior, then you can get a little respite from that by giving them, things to keep them occupied.
Excellent.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Excellent tips. You've mentioned before that there are various stages of dementia. Would you share with us what they are?
Well, I'm not going to give you the Alzheimer's version, but there's mild cognitive, there's moderate, and then there's severe. I use that because it's easier to remember. There's also pre-dementia, where you actually have the dementia, but it's not showing up yet. So with the mild dementia, you start seeing things like you're having trouble remembering appointments, or you're losing your car keys constantly. You are, missing social engagements. You just start missing things. You start forgetting words. You feel like you feel that something's wrong, but you don't know what it is. But you're still able to leave yourself notes, give yourself your medications, do things. It's just that you're starting to have lapses, and you might be forgetting more words, or you might be noticing, or your family might notice, that your sentences, you pause in the middle of a sentence, struggling to find the right word, and it takes you longer and longer. Okay, those are the signs of somebody in mild stages of dementia. When they get past that, that's when they are having difficulties with it's called instrumental activities of daily living. They're forgetting to pay bills. They are forgetting to take money to the bank. They are, they can't have trouble driving their car. They get lost when they're going from point A to point B. So these are things, and they're withdrawing from socializing. When you get to severe, that's when they start losing their ability to communicate, that they are unable to feed themselves. They need help with bathing and all sorts of other activities that they used to be able to do. And so it's more like caring for an infant, because they can't do it for themselves anymore. You have to do it for them. They lose the ability to communicate. It might be as they go towards the end of life, they only can say maybe 5 words, or they just grunt, or they make a sound, or no noise at all. It just depends on the person. So that's generally the stages they go through. You'll know when you're getting into severe stages of dementia, because you'll also end up with more hospital trips. Other parts of the body start failing at the same time. So you're going to start seeing, especially in this last 6 months of life, the last 6 months to a year is when you start seeing an uptick in falls, a huge uptick in going to the ER, a lot of stays in rehabilitation facilities, those sorts of things. So if they cannot do things on their own, then that's, they're in the severe stage.
Oh, it's depressing.
But even in the severe, to think of a lighter note of everything you shared, if we always remember that even in the severe stage, there's still the beginning severe and then the strongly severe. Because you said, like within a year, you can start seeing changes within that, which I've experienced. But if we always think, I would like to think, and you let me know if this is wrong, I tried to look for the good. Okay, there's a reason you're here on earth. You have something to teach us. What is it that I could use that you're still teaching me, Grandma, And And so if she was still at this babbling stage, I would just say, "Oh my gosh, Grandma, you're talking to the angels. Babbling is angel talk, and she'd be like, whatever, but still we'd be having this conversation and there was engagement. So otherwise I would have been a puddle of tears like I am when you're blown up, I'm wiping tears away. I'm sure Dr. Jacqueline's looking like, is she going to stop?
Oh, you're fine. It's important to express your emotions. You don't want to keep those in. And you're right. The connection is so hugely important to be able, whether she's, talking to the angels or talking to you. One of the things I have talked about in other places here is timeslips.org. It's a organization that teaches people how to creatively communicate with family members and how to learn to talk to them when they are losing their words and when they can't remember things. So it engages without using memory. And it's a really great tool to keep up that connection, because then you can also learn through their body language, the noises they make, how their eyes either get wider or scrunch up or whatever it is they're doing. So anything you can do to keep that connection, because they are going to teach you all the way up to the very end. So anything you can do to have that memory, to enjoy it, to allow yourself. A lot of times people don't give themselves permission. They're so wrapped up in the loss, they don't see the collateral beauty. It's in the collateral beauty that we have the greatest memories.
I love that, collateral. That's the title for a new book, young lady.
I've never heard that term either. It's amazing.
And could you say that website again? Time lapse, is that what you said?
It's Time Slips.
Slips.
So it's TIMESLIPS.org. timeslips.org. If you go into the training section of the website, it's free for people that are caregivers. So if you are a home caregiver, you can sign up for their class and they will teach you how to do the communication skills. It's a really incredible tool.
Thank you so much.
You're
That's
very
important.
I'd love for you to share about how your life is now that you are a very successful author compared to before you did any writing.
I still think of myself as a baby author. But I have to say that some really amazing things have happened, like that I never expected. My very first fan letter from somebody, they were pouring their thanks and gratitude out to me, and I didn't know how to respond because it was the very first time I received one. So all I could say was, "Thank you so much. You've touched me from the bottom of my heart." And that was about all I could say, because I was really choked up and I didn't know how to respond, because they had such an emotional connection with something that I had written. It was doing what I had promised I would do, but I had no coping mechanism for that. So it was a really big eye-opening moment for me. And then I had another one of my readers send me, and this is really cool, I never knew this existed. It was called Love Berries, and they were organically grown gigantic strawberries. They were like a half a pound a piece, and they were dipped in different types of chocolate.
Oh, yummy.
I was just so blown away. I mean, she sent me a note saying, "I'm sending you something. I got your address off the internet," and away she went. And she sent me this love berries. I'm like going, whoa. So they were so huge. I had a little party with my neighbors and we all ate some.
That is so sweet.
So I mean, it's amazing how you don't know how your book is going to affect someone. I've had people come to me and tell me that, they've read it cover to cover and they're not a reader. That was kind of surprising to me. And I've also had people come and say they just only needed one or two tools out of the toolbox. And then I was going, yes, because that's what it is. It's a toolbox. You just use the tools you need when you need them. And so it's been very, very gratifying. There's other people that are saying that I don't read and I don't care to read and I don't ever want to read your book. So, but that's their emotional space. That's not mine. I mean,
Right.
I'm trying to get out there just to give some people that need the tool a tool that they can use.
Thanks, Tracy. You also have a plethora of resources that you cite in here. You did a lot of research for this book as well. Can you talk to us about that?
Oh yeah. So the first thing I ever needed was some adaptive clothing for my mom, because she had esophageal cancer, and we were having issues with acid reflux, and also the stronger form of acid reflux when somebody vomits and then messes to clean up. And so I needed to find adaptive clothing first, and so that was one of the first resources I found. And then as I was moving through, people were suggesting different things to me, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. And I would write it down, and I would use things like the Dementia Care Advanced Directive that Dr. Barrett Gaster at the University of Washington put together for families that are trying to do end-of-life care, and explain to people how to treat them and how they want to be treated and taken care of at the end. And so there were just so many different things that came up. Resources for how to recover a loved one that has gone wandering, because in my own family, my dad was Houdini. I mean, he could get out of so many different things that it took me a while to figure out how to end run him. And he did escape a couple times. I shouldn't say escape. He wandered, and I didn't know where he went. And so the first time he had gone over to a neighbor's house, and so we were able to recover him easily. The second time he had gone for a long walk and got lost in a park, and we found him. But after that, I started searching for like RFID and GPS tools to like stick something in his shoes, because he always wears his shoes. And so that way I could track him if I lost him. So there's things like that on there. There's also resources for like the GenCare cost calculator, which works really well for if you're trying to make advanced planning, if you've got a loved one that's in the very early stages of dementia, how to plan financially, whether you're going to stay in your home or go stay at a progressive care facility. I mean, just whatever, or I should say progressive care community. So there's just different things in there that I was trying to find. And also stuff to after the end of life, when you're trying to settle somebody's estate, how to contact the credit bureaus, how to look for missing funds. So like if there's somebody, if your loved one had some funds out there that got lost, then that could be put back towards the estate to cover medical bills or whatever that's left over. Just different things that people wouldn't ordinarily think to look at. Putting your death notice on your credit bureau reports, so that people can't steal posthumous, IDs. I mean, just anything you could think of to give somebody just some peace of mind. There's also stuff in there for help with getting Medicare, Medicaid, using the SHIPS program for state insurance programs, just so that people could have funding. Also, how to work with pharmacies, how to dispose of medication after somebody's passed, because there's regulations about how you can dispose of your medications. So it's just different tools that I found useful that I thought, why should anyone have to search for them when I've already found them? So I put as many, and there's over 130 tools in there. Also support services, finding things in second languages, working with the deaf. I mean, there's just as anything I could think of, I threw in there, and I've got more since then that are on my website. So I'm constantly updating my website. If there's a broken link in the book, it's probably been updated on my website.
Tell us about the recipes. Let's not forget that.
Oh. Okay. Well, this is one of those things that this is like a twofer. Okay. I really wanted to make sure that the person that didn't cook, because I had several friends who their husbands did not cook, and they didn't know how to cook, and they were just eating McDonald's, or they were eating, meals that were prepackaged, and they weren't getting healthy food. And so if you are the family member that didn't know how to cook, I put in there my friend Kathy Russell is a former restaurateur. And so she created a cookbook for her parents when they were first starting their decline down the path of dementia. And I asked her if I could include her recipes, because I don't write recipes. And so she gave me all of her recipes. And then I added step-by-step what tools you need to do it, how to cook things, how to cut them, because all she did was what you would see in a standard recipe, which was perfect for anybody that doesn't have dementia, and also knows how to cook. And there's things in there like chicken parmesan and shepherd's pie, and there's also how to shop. Kathy put together a list of what items to buy to last for 2 weeks. So you could do 2 weeks worth of meal planning, and what size packages to buy and how to sort them out. The other thing that went with that is there are people that object to seeing dementia books in their home. Now, 95% of my readers read the paperback. They don't read the ebook. So I wanted to make sure there was a way that they could bring a dementia book into their home without their loved one getting upset. So I put together, and I haven't posted this yet, but I put together a video showing you, if you don't remember how, because you're not at that certain age, where you would have used a brown paper bag over your books in high school. And you would have written the name of the book on it. So I have put together a video that will be going up as soon as I finish editing it, that you can write on there things like dinners for beginners. And then what you would do is you would mark that page, because anything you do to highlight that page, that's the page they're going to turn to if they are if they're in their moderate stage of the disease. They'll go to whatever's highlighted because that's calling their attention. It's what they see first. And then if you use like whiteout, and you white out or use correction tape and get rid of the title at the top that says Dementia Home Care, you suddenly have a cookbook, and it is not a dementia book. And then you can have them pick out what they want for dinner.
That's wonderful.
Wow,
It's so, I mean, you really put a lot of thought into this. You really thought about the dementia person in the first stages and how they would feel if they saw the word dementia, because they would be sad because they want to stay who they are, correct? So, wow, amazing.
And I love the fact that as you're coming across some more tips and resources, you're putting them on your website.
Yes.
Absolutely. I want to make sure that I can get as many things out there as possible. One of the things I recently added was dementiamap.com, which is the Lori LeBay's brainchild. She put together resources from around the world. She's Alzheimer's Speaks is her website, but she has this incredible resource that she put together where it's anybody around the world can use these resources. So if you're living in a community where you do have access to the internet, but you don't have a lot of services, if you're in a town of 300 people, you're not going to have a lot of services there. So what she did is she put support groups. She put people that could be coaches that can teach you how to take care of things, training things so you can learn how to do specific types of care. She's really thought about this, and it's still growing, but it's an incredible resource, and I recommend it to a lot of people. And I put it on my website because I wanted to make sure it was available to folks so that they could find it, because you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And dementia care is something that 90% of us don't know anything about. As all of us can speak from experience, you stumble your way through until you finally get to the point where you're helping them, not falling on your face. So if we can shortcut that and make it just a little bit easier for someone so that they can actually have downtime and actually get to enjoy their loved one and give themselves permission to laugh and breathe, isn't that such a much better thing?
Absolutely.
Sure is. Tracy, I want to bring up your website, if that's okay with you.
Oh, sure.
Okay, fantastic. Let's take a look. All right, I'm over here on the website. Tell me where I should go.
Okay, if you just want to scroll down, I recently did a little quick revamp because I was noticing that people were looking at it and then their eyes were glancing off and they were leaving immediately. But right here, you can see I have the 10 steps to calming aggressive dementia behavior. That's the giveaway that I've got for my website. This is a tool that I based on the work of Teepa Snow, and it literally walks you through step by step how to calm someone down. And it doesn't matter if they have dementia or if they're just in crisis. It works with everyone. So it's one of those tools that you can walk them through to a place of safety and calm. And I highly recommend it. You getting the copy of it. Whether you stay subscribed to my newsletter, that's up to you, but it's a really great tool if you subscribe. I also share my story there, and then just a quick television interview that I did sometime last year, I think it was, just to give people a little bit of information on what they can do. And then the resources page is the really big one. And unfortunately, my events page has broken, and so it's going to take me a little bit to get all of the software to get that back up and running. But so on the menu, you're going to see here, you can click on any of these items. It will take you down to where they're listed. I've got military support. I've got distraction technique aids, connecting tools and talking aids. There's just memory kits if you want to get memory kits through the library. Whatever I could think of, I threw in there training videos, translation languages. So not everyone, when you are someone that English is a second language, with dementia, you can lose it very quickly, your second language, and then you can only speak in your native tongue. I wanted to make sure that there were resources for the family members to find quickly something that could tell them what the lab results said so that their family member could read them, and tell them, how to get information in a language that they understood. And that's just a quick trip about my story.
And tell us also about how the people can purchase your book, obviously.
Well, my book is in wide release, so you can buy it through Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble, online with Target. Any one of your favorite independent booksellers can also order the book for you. And Ace Hardware in Gig Harbor, Washington stocks the book.
Fantastic. Tracy, thank you so much for another fabulous episode, sharing with us. Thank you for being on our team. Thank you for hosting your show and providing so much valuable information. I know you've got another episode coming up. Would you like to talk about who's going to be joining you?
Oh, yes, I'm very excited. We have Kitty Isley. She's an NPR veteran and the producer and host of 24/7, a show about caregiving. She started it when her father started the path of dementia, and she was at the beginning, she was just talking about her own experiences. And then when her father passed, she started bringing other people onto the show that were also affected by dementia. It's a very fascinating podcast. It's 24/7 spelled out podcast. You can find it on, if you just Google it, you'll find it. It's an incredible resource. And we're going to have her on to talk about her dementia caregiving experiences and how she is being an advocate now.
Wonderful. Look forward to that. Absolutely.
Fabulous.
Thank you, Tracy, for being here. Thank you, Diane. Diane, how can people get in touch with you? How can they purchase your books?
Sure. You can go to my website. That's the easiest place. DIANN'FLOYD.BOEHM.com. DIANN'FLOYD.BOEHM.com. And on my social medias there, be sure to sign up for my newsletter so you know what all's happening and what's coming up. And my books, very much like Tracy, in all the bookstores and independent bookstores can also order them as well. Thank you, Dr. Jacqueline, and thank you, Tracy.
Oh, thank you both.
Thank you guys so much. It was such an honor to be here today.
So much fun and so much great information. You know, Tracy, how much it means to me. So I really do thank you for everything that you're doing.
Yes.
It's my pleasure.
All right, everyone, we're signing off now. Our next show is coming up. It's the Film and Music Show, followed by The Wise Ones and then Talking Heads. So we'll see you back here. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.